Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Here. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Labha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Sarvajikacharya Ashtavatar Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Sarvajikacharya Ashtavatar Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavin Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Okay, so since we missed Srivas Thakur's appearance day, Maharaj had everything prepared, and so I'm going to read something about Srivas Thakur, whose disappearance day was yesterday. And then we'll proceed with the Bhagavatam class. Very important figure, Srivas Thakur. Okay. He's known as Srivas Pandit also. Srivas Pandit, the fifth member of the Pancha Tattva, which is Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivas, Adi Gaur Bhaktivinoda, lived in Navadvip before the advent of Lord Chaitanya. Srivas led his brothers Sri Ram, Sri Nidhi and Sripati in their devotional lives of singing Krishna's names, worshipping the Lord, and bathing thrice daily in the Ganges. Meeting with Sri Advaita Acharya Prabhu, they studied Srimad Bhagavatam and prayed for an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. Why did they pray? Because only an avatar of Krishna could re-establish Vaishnavism among the staunch atheists, logicians, and proud pundits harassing Nadia at that time. Malini, the wife of Srivas, was a constant friend of Shachi Devi. Shachi Devi is Lord Chaitanya's mother. She, Malini, served Nimai as a nurse when Nimai was Lord Chaitanya's childhood name. When Lord Vishrambar, that's another name for Lord Chaitanya, when Lord Vishrambar appeared, the hearts of all the devotees were filled with parental affection, Vatsalya Bhava. Gaurachandra loved Malini and Srivas as a second mother and father. Srivas Angam, he doesn't say what that is. Srivas Angam is the home of Srivas Thakur. Srivas Angam was located 200 yards north of Nimai's house. Srivas Thakur's palatial home had large, comfortable rooms, a high protective boundary wall, and lush, densely foliated gardens and groves. Every night, Lord Chaitanya and his dearest friends would enjoy ecstatic kirtans there and taste the mellows of Vrindavan. There, the raging Muslim Qazi broke the sacred Mridanga drum in his foolish attempt to stop Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. Henceforward, Srivas Angam was also known as Kol Bangadanga, the place where the Mridanga was broken. The Qazi passed an ordinance prohibiting Sankirtan. Violators would be converted to the Muslim faith and lose their property. Although most Nadia residents panicked over this, Srivas Pandit laughed at the fanatical law. Within Srivas Angam, Lord Gauranga Sundar, that's Lord Chaitanya, showed his divine form to all his eternal associates. The house of Srivas Pandit served as the headquarters of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. The daily Bhagavatam classes, the nightly kirtans, and many confidential Braja pastimes of Lord Chaitanya occurred there. Srivas Thakur and Sri Advaita Acharya, the learned chiefs of the Brahmin community, dedicated all their energy to Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. They surrendered their bodies, their minds, homes, friends, family, and all possessions to Lord Chaitanya's service. They knew no other gods or goddesses. Srivas Thakur maintained his family not because they were his relatives, but because they were Sri Chaitanya's loving servants. Now, about his maintaining his family, he never seemed to go to work. He was always at home and worshiping and doing things. Lord Chaitanya once said, "So, how are you going to maintain?" He says, "I'm just trusting in Krishna, whatever he wants, and so far he's provided everything." And so he was a perfect example of simply surrendering to the Lord and trusting in that he will maintain as also. That's one of the principles of surrender. Agoptvedve badanangtata. Srivas Thakur represents the marginal living entity, that's us. Tatasta Jiva. He's also a representative or an expansion of Narada Muni. The devotees headed by Srivas are described as Lord Chaitanya's smaller limbs, his face, his eyes, hands, disc, other weapons. They all took part in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. With them, Lord Chaitanya spread the Sankirtan movement. Srivas Thakur is Narada Muni, an intergalactic preacher and constant associate of the Lord. Srivas Thakur's samadhi is in the 64 samadhis area. Srivas Thakur ki jai. So now we'll proceed with Bhagavatam class. Let's see. Okay. Narayanam namaskritya narang chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiriyet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vāsudeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta prayesha bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavat Yuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord is glorified, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsudevaya. On this first day of July 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Canto 7, The Science of God. Chapter 9, Prahlad pacifies Lord Nrsingadev with prayers. Text number 46. Okay. Mauna, vrata, shuta, tapo, adhyayana, swadharma, vyakya, raho, japa, samadhaya, apavargyaha, prayaha, param, purusha, te, tu, ajitendriyanam, varta, bhavanti, uta, navatra, tu, dambikanam, mauna vrata, let's see, govindamani parasam damaham bhajami. Mauna vrata shutatapo dhyana swadharma. Vyakya raho japa samadhaya apavargya. Praya param purushate tvajitendriyanam. Varta bhavantyutana vatra tugdam vikanam. Mauna vrata shutatapo dhyayana swadharma. Vyakya raho japa samadhya apavargya. Prayak param purushate tvajitendriyanam. Vata bhavantyutana vata tudambikanam. Mauna vrata shutatapo dhyana swadharma. Vyakya raho japa samadhya apavargya. Prayak param purushate tvajitendriyanam. Varta bhavantyutana vata tudambikanam. Mauna vrata shutatapo dhyayana swadharma. Yakya raho japa samadhya apavargya. Prayak param purushate tvajitendriyanam. Varta bhavantyutana vata tudambikanam. Mauna vrata shutatapo dhyana swadharma. Yakya raho japa samadhya apavargya. Prayak param purushate tvajitendriyanam. Enjoy. Mauna vrata shutatapo dhyana swadharma. Yakya raho japa samadhya apavargya. Prayak param purushate tvajitendriyanam. Varta bhavantyutana vata tudambikanam. Mauna, silence. Vrata, vows. Shuta, Vedic knowledge. Tapaha, austerity. Adhyayana, study of scripture. Swadharma. Executing Varnashram Dharma. Vyakya. Explaining the Shastras. Raha. Living in a solitary place. Japa. Chanting or reciting mantras. Samadhyaha. Remaining in trance. Apavargyaha. These are 10 types of activities for advancing on the path of liberation. Prayaha. Generally. Param. The only means. Purusha. O my Lord. Te. All of them. Tu. But. Ajita indriyanam. Of persons who cannot control the senses. Bhata. Means of living. Bhavanti. Are. Uta. So it is said. Na. Not. Va. Or. Atra. In this connection. Tu. But. Dambikanam. Of persons who are falsely proud. Translation. Translation and commentary by Srila Prabhupada. So this is Prahlad Maharaj continuing to offer prayers to Lord Nrsimhadev. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, there are 10 prescribed methods on the path to liberation. To remain silent, not to speak to anyone. To observe vows, to amass all kinds of Vedic knowledge, to undergo austerities, to study the Vedas and other Vedic literatures, to execute the duties of Varnashram Dharma, to explain the Shastras, to stay in a solitary place, to chant mantras silently, and to be absorbed in trance. These different methods for liberation are generally only a professional practice and means of livelihood for those who have not conquered their senses. Because such persons are falsely proud, these procedures may not be successful. Purport. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 6.1.15, Kechit kevalaya bhaktya vāsudeva-parāyaṇa agham dhunvanti Kṛṣṇena niharam iva bhaskaraha. Only a rare person who has adopted complete unalloyed devotional service to Krishna can uproot the weeds of sinful actions, with no possibility that they will revive. He can do this simply by discharging devotional service, just as the sun can immediately dissipate fog by its rays. Close quote. The real purpose of human life is to attain liberation from material entanglement. Such liberation may be achieved by many methods. Tapasa brahmacharyena, shamena cha damena cha. But all of them more or less depend on tapasya, austerity, which begins with celibacy. Śukadeva Gosvāmī says that those who are vāsudeva-parāyaṇa, who have fully surrendered to the lotus feet of Lord Vāsudeva, Krishna, automatically achieve the results of mauna, silence, vrata, vows, and other such methods simply by discharging devotional service. In other words, these methods are not so powerful. If one takes to devotional service, all of them are very easily performed. Mauna, for example, does not mean that one should just stop speaking. Mauna usually means silence, not speaking at all. The tongue is meant for speaking, although sometimes to make a big show, a person remains silent. There are many who observe silence some day in a week. Vaishnavas, however, do not observe such silence. Silence means not speaking foolishly. I'll repeat that. Silence means not speaking foolishly. Speakers at assemblies, conferences, and meetings generally speak foolishly like toads. This is described by Srila Rupa Goswami as vacho vegam. Vacho vegam means the urge to speak. One who wants to say something can show himself to be a big orator, but rather than go on speaking nonsense, better to remain silent. This method of silence, therefore, is recommended for persons very attached to speaking nonsense. One who is not a devotee must speak nonsensically because he does not have the power to speak about the glories of Krishna. Thus, whatever he says is influenced by the illusory energy and is compared to the croaking of a frog. One who speaks about the glories of the Lord, however, has no need to be silent. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends Kirtaniya Sada Harihi. One should go on chanting the glories of the Lord 24 hours a day. There is no question of becoming mauna, or silent. The 10 processes for liberation or improvement on the path of liberation are not meant for the devotees. Kevalaya Bhaktya, this is the verse I quoted that is meant for devotees. If one simply engages in devotional service to the Lord, all 10 methods of liberation are automatically observed. Prahlad Maharaj's proposal is that such processes may be recommended for the Ajitendriya, those who cannot conquer their senses. Devotees, however, have already conquered their senses. Sarva parivini muktam tatparatvena nirmalam. A devotee is already freed from the material contamination. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur therefore said, Dushtamana tumi kisher Vaishnav, patishtara tari nirjanera ghare tava hari nama kevala kaitava. There are many who like to chant the Hare Krishna mantra in a silent, solitary place. But if one is not interested in preaching, talking constantly to the non-devotees, the influence of the modes of nature is very difficult to surpass. Therefore, unless one is extremely advanced in Krishna consciousness, one should not imitate Haridas Thakur, who had no other business than chanting the holy name always, 24 hours a day. Prahlad Maharaj does not condemn such a process, he accepts it, but without active service to the Lord, simply by such methods, one generally cannot attain liberation. One cannot attain liberation simply by false pride. Om jnana timbarandasya jnanandana shalakaya chakshu unmidatam mena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So, last verse, not yet, questions afterward. The last verse was a famous verse about the futility of trying to get sense gratification, especially in attached family life. Yan maitunadi guhimedi sukhami tucham kandu yanena kadayodeva dukkha dukkam tripyanti nehe kabanaba hudukka bhaja kandut ivan manasijam vishaheta dhira. That maitun, etc. This is the engagement in sex life, especially in household life, leads to more and more attachment. So the happiness of grihamedi life, grihamedi is materialistic household life, as opposed to grihastha ashram. Maitun, etc. You remember there's always an etc. with the sex life. This came up in the 5th canto with Rishabdev, his famous verse, Pungsastuya mituni bhavametang tayo mato vidya grantamahu. Ata grihat sheta sutapta vitta janasya moho yamahamameti. That's describing what the maitunadi. So pungsastuya mituni means sex life between a man and a woman. Mituni bhavam, etan, with the bhava, gaining into the mood of it, and then actually engaging in it, tayo mito vidya grantamaho, ties the knots in the heart very tight. Remember, these knots in the heart come up again and again in the Bhagavatam. The vidya granti. It's a very dramatic metaphor. What it means is that by engaging in sense gratification, you tie a knot in your heart, because if it's pleasurable, then you want to do it again, right? So it doesn't matter if you're a little child, you don't have any sex life, but still there's all these other things you can become attached to, right? Nowadays it's your little iPad that they give you for your 7th birthday, right? And then you're finished. You have a million different things to get attached to. So but then the big one comes later on with the maturity of the body, with the sex desire. So that's why he's saying pungsa striya, man and woman, mituni bhavam. Then when they get into the bhava, into the mood of sex life, and they actually engage in it, bhavam etan tayo mito vidya grantamaho. This ties the knot in the heart very tight, because the person is fulfilling your most ardent desire and pleasing you. This is what we call love. And then, but it has ramifications in any civilized society. Now, in the West, and led by the United States as usual, Prabhupada mentions it, that marriage is practically an imagination society now. Because he's coming in the middle of the 60s to America, to New York City, then San Francisco, and it's free sex going on everywhere. The hippies, they left their comfortable home, middle class, but they came and they on LSD, and then they're having sex all over, And so, of course, then, there's unwanted children, and there's welfare, and all of this dependence, and it's just disaster. So, but in any civilized world, then there's the institution of marriage. You see, okay. So that's just an authorized way of building a whole, web of attachments. And he goes through them in that verse. Atta, when the sex comes, okay, well then we need a place. Now we're going to get married. Atta griha, right? You have to have a place for all this. Griha, and then you need a job. And the traditional is chaitra. So he mentions chaitra means the little plot of land that you can farm. Okay, now we have our little cabin and we have a little farm, land that we can sustain ourselves. But then immediately come the children, sutta, sons, daughters. Atta griha chaitra sutta and apta, a whole bunch of relatives. They want to see the little baby and come visit, like this. So then you need an extra guest room, you have to expand. So sutta, apta, and what sustains the whole thing? Vittai, money. You're not making enough just farming the land, then you have to market it, then you have to start a business, you have to go to work, that's too much. Vittai, janas, and all of this, janas generates, janasya moha, more and more illusion and bewilderment, which is centered on the false ego. Janasya moha yamaham mameti, which is carried as my and I and my. I am the husband of this wife. These are my children. This is my abode. These are my relative. This is my bank account. I and my. This is the tight knot of ahankar, of illusion. So that's what we need to get liberated from. That's what liberation means. To get free from all of that is not so easy. And there's these 10 elements that he mentions here. This is the means of doing it, which is very inefficient without bhakti. Silence, and then sutta and austerities and all of the different things. This is like what the yogis try to do with the impersonal yogis, But it's all futile. The knots are too hard. If you can easily also become falsely proud of your position as a yogi, as an impersonalist. The pride is there, right? So now recall, what's the first line of the Shikshastika? Cheto darpana marjanam pavamahadavagni nirvapanam. What does he say there? He says, by the process of Sankirtan, the whole verse is about Sankirtan, Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtan. So here's the result, here's the benefits. First one is your heart, the mirror of the mind and the heart becomes cleansed, becomes polished, you see. And that polishing is at the same time also cutting those knots. And that's why he says, Cheto darpana marjanam bhava mahadavagni nirvapaham. There's your liberation, right at the beginning of the process. He's very, very graphic metaphors, right? He's got the mirror of the mind, has to be clean, otherwise you can't see yourself, you can't understand who you are. That's where you understand your spirit soul. So the dust of lust, a little poem. We won't recite the poem at this point. So Bhava Mahadavagni, the great forest fire of birth and death, and Bhava is sometimes it's ocean, Bhavasagara, or it's sometimes Bhavagni, the burning fire. Nirvapanam extinguishes it. The very beginning of bhakti is not even that complete bhakti, but the beginning of bhakti, you're getting that liberation feeling. And we can all experience it. If we're serious, those of us who are serious about bhakti, yoga, Krishna consciousness, means it's so much chanting is going on, right? You have the kirtans, and you have your minimum 2 hours of japa, that holy name, and that is the essence of it. Is the whole practice. Is to really, chant your rounds very nicely, attend the kirtans, hear the holy name, chant it with enthusiasm and sincerity, and there's your liberation right there. Is that you become liberated, and you can experience it. You can experience. The most practical thing is that the things that you were attached to, your old friends, and they when you first join, they may contact you like, "Come on, let's go for a beer," Said, no, thank you anymore, No more. And there's a very nice section in the Gita. That's why I had this. This comes up again and again in the Gita, the famous verse, Vishayava nivartande niraharasya dehinak rasavadam rasobhyasya padam dishrana vartate. I remember when I first read that verse and I was already chanting, I was part of the temple, and I was like, yeah, this is just what it's like. Is that the whole idea in getting liberation is give up the attachment to the Vishayas. The Vishayas, the objects of the senses. That's what's keeping you bound to this world. If you die, you leave your body, and you're full of all of these material desires, they'll bring you back to another material body. And because there's no, we're not observing Vedic culture or anything, chances are we commit all kinds of sins, and down you go into some animal body or something, and you're sniffing around, and That's what we've been doing for so long. That's the tight knots of material, bondage. So at the end of the second chapter, we find these famous verses describing the process of progressive attachment. Right? What is it? Dhyayato vishayan pumsa sangasteshu vijayate sangat sanjayate kama krodha vijayate krodha bhavati sammoha smriti vibrama smriti brangshad buddhinasha buddhinasha panashiti. Those familiar? I'll give you the translation. The translation go together, those two. While contemplating the object of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. If they're attractive objects of the senses, we're presented with them all the time. It could be an opposite sex, it could be a piece of chocolate. Attachment for them. And from such attachment, lust develops. So the sangha is one thing, but then if you continue, then you get that it increases more and more to the position of kama. Really strong desire that you can't think of anything else. Right? And from lust, anger arises. So inevitably you get frustrated in your pursuit of material desire. Sooner or later you become frustrated. You got what you desire, you're happily married and so forth, then she cheats on him, or he cheats on her, or whatever, something like that happens. And the whole thing turns into a horror show, right? So that's the anger. Then you become furious, you may kill someone. So this is the progressive, so from lust, anger develops, right? Kama esha, krodha esha, back in the third chapter we learn, sorry. So the anger is, and from the anger, one loses his complete delusion arises. So you can become somebody else. How many trials have there been where someone did something completely out of character, but he got caught? He punched someone or really seriously injured them or whatever he did. He or she did, and then you suffer for that the rest of your life. Complete delusion from anger, complete delusion, and from complete delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down into the material pool. So the whole thing is the intelligence. The intelligence is the special thing we have as human beings. This is not for animals. They don't have the intelligence to hear or to control the senses. They're run by the senses. So this is for human beings who have the intelligence, which we need to strengthen through hearing and through practice. When we actually do practice one of the principles in the Gita or the Bhagavatam, which is restraint of the senses or some positive service, then you make progress. You see? By the positive service you're doing, chanting the holy name, worshiping the deity, preaching, whatever it may be, you're feeling spiritual pleasure. Krishna is giving you pleasure from within, you see, which is overwhelming, which is negating the material pleasure. Remember yesterday we heard the famous verse from Yamunacharya. Yadavadi mamacheta Krishna paradavinde navanamana sadhaman yuditam rantamasi tadapati patanari sangame smayamane babati mukhavakara sustunishti vanangsha. So it's very, very graphic, Ever since I've been enjoying ever new pleasure by serving the lotus feet of Nandanandana, Krishna. Yadavadi mamacheta Krishna pada, my mind, paradavinde navanama rasa. Ever new pleasure. This is the whole thing about spiritual life, spiritual pleasure. It's ever fresh. Whereas material pleasure becomes hackneyed. This becomes hackneyed. Why do people get divorces? Why do they, anyway, a million different things where you try to renounce some desire because you know it's bad for you, or you give it up, it's disgusting, who cares anymore? Or you outgrow it, you know, some child likes something, then grows ears. So how do I ever play with that tall doll, you know, whatever. So it's constantly engaging and then renouncing, engaging, renouncing. So here he's the supreme renunciation by getting the higher taste. So ever since, now he's reinstated, right? Yamunacharya was a devotee, then we heard yesterday about he became a king. And as a king, you have so many, you know, temptations, right? It's very impossible, very hard to be renounced unless you're someone like Ambarish. Right? Ambarish was a great king, but he only heard about Krishna, only spoke about Krishna, he was only serving Krishna. So he was renounced, and even from his own life, when he was attacked by the Kṛṣṇa demoness created by Durvasa. Amazing. There's so many sections of the Bhagavatam that could be great, make movies, you know. And so here's this demoness coming at him, ready to burn him. And what is he doing? Basically chanting Hare Krishna. He's just standing there. He's not running. He's not screaming. He says, ah! No. He says, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, you know. And of course he was protected, just like Prahlad was protected. Prahlad didn't scream and pray to his father, please leave me alone. Nothing like that. He was completely confident, and he was not feeling the terror that an ordinary person would feel. So a king can be great, like Parikshit and Ambarish, but you know, Yamunacharya was more or less, he lost it. He blooped for a while. But the way I heard the story, because I forget who told, I think Vijay told this story when he was here, about Yamunacharya, that when he was a king, one of his old friends came from the old ashram, you know, to visit him, and Haribol, Prabhu, you know. And so he suggested they take a walk. So they took a walk, the gardens, you know. So they're walking, and then he's reminding him of all these old verses they used to chant in the ashram, you know. And Yamunacharya is remembering all the pleasure, and he's starting to, you know, he didn't stop walking. He just walked all out of the kingdom. Came back, and then he became Yamunacharya. Then he wrote this verse. So he's saying this pleasure itself is giving me the truth. In other words, now my mind is clear, and I can see that was degrading and disgusting. He actually feels disgust, and he spits at the thought, which is, you know, real renunciation. So we may not spit at all the things that, you know, remember, because I mean, sometimes the remembrance comes other things that we're doing, but we can be very happy that we're not attracted to him anymore. You know, all the meat and everything you can eat, you can realize, God, thank you for saving me from that. Isn't it? I mean, this is like samsara dhavananda loka tranaya. The spiritual master is saving us from the blazing fire of material life, which is destroying us, by giving us Krishna consciousness so that we can become sane again and find out where real pleasure is. That's why devotees, you know, after a certain point, you're not really desiring liberation. That's not what you're desiring. You're desiring Krishna. You want to desire to do more service and to taste the different varieties of pleasure that are there. And that completely negates, you're liberated. And the famous verse by Bilba Mangal Thakur near the end of his Krishna Karnamrita. Bhakti stvahi. He's always speaking directly to Krishna. He can't see him with his physical eyes, but he's seeing with his spiritual eyes. Bhakti stvahi sthitatara bhagavan yadi syad. Daivedanak palati divya kishora murti. Mukti swayam mukulitanjali sevate svat dharmata kama gatayak samayak patiksha. If one is situated in firm and powerful devotion unto you, O Krishna, Bhakti Svayi Stiratara Bhagavan, or Supreme Personality of God. Yadi means if. Then what's the result? So one gets the fruit of that devotion. Is it liberation? No. It's a darshan of your beautiful adolescent form. Palati, the fruit. Palati divya kishora murti, your divine adolescent form. And as for liberation, she's standing by the door. This Anjali, this is a mudra. We've been getting into mudras lately. I can't resist. You remember what the Abhay mudra is? Who gives us the Abhay mudra? Okay, this is for Sukanto, he forgot. You look at Radharani, she's got this hand. Abhay mudra. Abhay dan mudra. The gift of fearlessness. If you it's wonderful. So there's so many mudras. There's also this mudra. Anjali, right? And of course there should be a flower in there, and it becomes Pushpanjali. I always come, when I was working on the Bhagavatam, we had the folded hands. It was actually a little bit off, but the folded hands is like this, the prayers in the churches. And there's nothing in there, It's like, please, give me this, please, Lord, give me my daily bread, But the devotees, they pray like this. They want to offer their heart, or the Anjali. So what's she got in there? Mukti. She's offering mukti. Mukulitanjali sevate sman. Mukti personified is at the door, In other words, I don't have to worry about it. I've got it already. And what about dharma, artha, and kama? Dharma, artha, kama gata yaksami apatiksha. And there, whatever I need of dharma, artha, and kama, we have to have a little artha. We have to have a little sense gratification, the Sunday feast, They're also there. So he's not worried about it. The real fruit and the impetus for being a devotees should transform. It's good to start, and it comes up again. Bhagavatam, it's here, and in the Bhagavad Gita, but then when you get to Lord Chaitanya's movement, what do we get in the 4th verse of the Shikshasaka? Nadanang, najanang, nasundaring kapitang, vajagadisha kamaye. Next line. Okay, so what does he want? What is he praying for? The Bhavatat Bhakti, ahoitiki. That's what he's asking for. A lifetime after lifetime implies he doesn't care about liberation. So he's not praying for liberation. What to speak of wealth, followers, beautiful women, all that, No. Nadanam, nasundiri. That which everyone is going to church, to pray for, maybe, prosperity gospel. It's all about dana, And to get to dana, the preachers, the skilled preachers, the propagandists, what was it described here? Dambikanam. You remember Damba? Damba is the first quality of the demons. Dumbo, Darpo, Bimanascha. Damba, Prabhupada calls it false pride. The essence of Damba is hypocrisy. It's hypocrisy. These what do you call it? Preachers, so-called preachers of this philosophy, huge halls, stadiums filled with people. They get, the churches. It's all over the place. And the whole idea is you simply give, you plant the seed with the Lord of your check you send to me, and that will fructify and you'll be prosperous. It worked for me, she said. They have women doing it now too. And what's the proof? I have my private jet, you see, and I have my estate, and it works. So it'll work for you too. And then people buy into that. This is the height of damba, of hypocrisy. And then there's all kinds of cheating. They go to jail sometimes. The preachers, because they're cheating on their taxes, whatever. So the whole thing is corrupted. Is religion? No hint of even doing good to others, even like the Christian thing of, they're not going out and feeding the poor. They want to become rich, and they all believe it, and they fill up the stadiums like that. You see the harm of that? That's mentioned here. This is dambikanam, hypocrisy, and we're not, this he's warning us with this. So the liberation is taken care of. That can be an impetus. We should be sober-minded. To become serious as devotees, because because you can lose the human form of life. But then we learn that even a little advancement in Krishna consciousness, you won't lose the human form of life. But why prolong the agony? Why not try to get serious and go back to God in one life or maybe 2 lives? We've been millions and billions of lives up and down, and Brahmante ko and Bhagirandi. Guru Krishna Pasarai Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. But now, by the mercy of the Guru, who's been sent by Krishna, and the Guru, he gives us Krishna, plants the seed of that creeper of bhakti, the bhakti lata, and the bija, and all we have to do is water it. And what's the main watering process? Hearing and chanting, right? Shravan Kirtan Jal. So the whole thing boils down to the sound vibration, what you're vibrating, what you're hearing. And there's some really nice verses in the prayers of Brahma. I think I mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again. In the in I forget the chapter, it's number, but it's I think the description of the kingdom of God. He has a verse there that's very graphic and bracing about who doesn't go, who doesn't get to go to Vaikuntha. Yanna vrajanti means they don't go. Who does not vrajanti go? Yanna vrajant agabado yanna vrajant agabadam oh God, now I'm forgetting the Sanskrit. Anyway, it says those who hear vibrations that have nothing to do with the Lord, who's the reliever from all sin. Other topics other than Krishna Katha, which is all over the place. It's in your phone, it's coming from here, from everywhere, We're surrounded by it. So that's why choosing what we hear and chant, and Srila Prabhupada has poured upon us these subjects with these books, and his lecture, you can spend your whole life hearing Krishna Katha and vibrating it. That's the great treasure that Prabhupada has given us. So, but those who refuse to do that, ordinary people, other subject matters, and I'll never stop pointing out how the word Visha and Vishaya are very similar. What's Visha mean? Visha? Visha is poison. And Vishaya is sense gratification. It's not an accident that they're... okay, Vishaya yanna vajantagabado vachananubhara chinvanti ye anya vishaya kukata mating. It's called kukata. We want to hear Krishna Katha, right? Which will take you back to God. Kukata will take you to hell. That's what he's saying here. What is the result? Matigni. It destroys your intelligence. The whole thing is purifying your consciousness and your intelligence, making it strong in Krishna consciousness. The last night, actually you heard the talk by Narantara Prabhu. He asked me to chant a verse, the verse that he was going through Lord Chaitanya's instructions to Sanatan as a brief summary, and a key verse in the Abhideya section. There's 3 stages, right? Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana. So Abhideya is the practice. So as soon as he starts speaking about the practice, he chants this verse about how long have I followed the demands of lust, anger, greed, illusion? They've shown me no mercy. I've been obeying them, and I'm still suffering. You see, but now I'm rejecting their demands. I'm not going to listen to them anymore because my higher intelligence has been pure. My intelligence has been strengthened and purified by hearing and chanting. The Shastra, genuine vibration. And what's the evidence of his purification? Now, instead of trying to obey that, he's praying for service to the Lord. Let me serve you, not the demands of these senses. This is the whole process of liberation. We're not, that's the first step. You feel liberated, then you keep going until you're tasting, right? What is it? Anartha nivriti, then nishta, ruchi increases. Ruchi is there all along. Otherwise, we wouldn't keep doing it. But the ruchi gets very sweet, and you're almost mad for it. That matures into asakta, genuine attachment for Krishna, which gets thicker and thicker. It becomes bhava and prema. So the purification is the whole thing. Anartha nivriti, which is possible by bhajan and association and taking initiation, which is very important, and gradually coming to the point of nishta, which is firm faith. First, faith is defined by Lord Chaitanya as Shraddha Shabda Vishwas Koti, the firm conviction that the practice of Krishna, by the practicing Krishna consciousness, all my aspirations for life will be fulfilled. It's not a part-time thing. We want to do it as much as possible. So this verse describes, and what happens? Destroy your intelligence. Tang, all of those subject matters. Chapanti. Yad dhyata urga. Yeah. Tan chapanta sadayam. You get thrown down and with no shelter, and you go to the darkest region of existence by the topics. The whole thing is the sound vibration. So that's the essence of the difference. We don't worry about the mauna and the vrata, and we're not going to keep silent. Keeping silent means not speaking nonsense and not listening to nonsense. It means being chaste in our hearing and chanting, which is what our consciousness really consists of. And then you find such a taste in Krishna Katha. What is that? Oh, it's on your phone. I thought it was coming from outside. Someone was screaming in ecstasy in the kirtan. Anyway, I'll leave it like that. Hare Krishna. So anyway, this whole thing, and Prabhupada talks about this, you know, that devotees, as far as our liberation goes, by attaining the pure devotional service or purified devotion, then, and being vāsudeva-parāyaṇa. This word parāyaṇa is such a wonderful word. It means completely dedicated. And, you know, Narayana Parayana. It's perfect, you know. So here's Vāsudeva-parāyaṇa. Agam dunvanti Kṛṣṇa. All of your sinful reactions are cleansed away, you know, by this pure devotion, this faithfulness. And just like a fog being cleared by the bright sun, the sun rising, you know, the sun of the Bhagavatam, you know, gives you all the sound vibration you'll need, you know. So that's the difference. And in that free, liberated condition, then when you try to spread Krishna consciousness, people become attracted because they see this person is peaceful, this person is joyful, and they become curious about books, you know, they're giving him, or they check out the temple or chant the mantra. If you want to get in serious, right, that's why you have the japa beads. You always point, 1 or 2 people take japa beads every day. Very fortunate people. So that's and this is, you know, Prahlad, who's speaking with authority, because he went through hell, you know, which wasn't hell for him, but if you describe it, it's inconceivable that he survived it. But the real amazing thing is that he wasn't even disturbed by it, all of that his father was doing and threatening him. And he was protected by Śukadeva, who eventually, of course, saved him personally, and is receiving all of these wonderful prayers. And we're coming to the end now of his prayers. There'll be a few more verses, but they can be studied again and again. You know, the last two, not the last 2 verses, but those 2, Naivod Vijay and the one following it, are exactly the mood that we're supposed to be for preaching. You know, that now we've been feeling the benefit of devotional service. Where, you know, our anxiety, our despair, our depression is over. We're feeling joy in our lives, but we should feel the urgency. Paradukha dukhi is exactly that. Paradukha dukhi. Shoche Prahlad is saying, I'm lamenting for these fools and rascals who are still trying to enjoy their senses, right? Maya sukhaya, and the bottom. You know, and to do that, you have to bear a great burden. You got to get the money, you got to spend it, you got to dress up. You know, okay. It's such a relief. You know, the wardrobe. You know, how much is a wardrobe? People are spending thousands of dollars on this and that. You know, just the shoes. And who brought up the thing about the Maharaj? Yeah, what was the name of the place? You remember? The blenders, yeah. I walk by them all the time. So I looked at the window. They have one lady wearing these. It says, "Be loved." You know, this is how you can really be loved. You know, it should be beloved, but be loved. We get these things. I mean, another one is a similar nonsense, you know, thing. This is what people get. You can see Maya is so skilled. You know, once you go down that road, there's no end to it. But Krishna consciousness cuts off Maya. Okay, it's getting late. Any discussion on these points? How to get? Okay. I'm sorry, but I'm still learning your name. I'm gonna learn it. I just need to see it printed out. Go ahead. Is it on? Can you show them how to turn it on?
So what would be the difference between liberation and confidence in what not oneself is saying, but like, for example...
Did you say continence or confidence?
Confidence. Okay. So like, for example, right, like, you know, we have been built up by Krishna this whole time to expel this knowledge, right? And at the smallest hint of conflict, you know, do we lay down and just, you know, sit back because of liberation, or do we express what is meant to be expressed?
Yeah, this is why we have this example of Prahlad. You practically summarized exactly the opposite of what he did. He was a little child who became perfect in Krishna consciousness while still in the womb. This is get the microphone. It's an amazing story. And there's Narada Muni. He comes in several times in each canto, and he has a unique way. He says just what's necessary for the person for them to advance in devotion. So anyway, I'm not going to go through the story again, but he came out of the womb and he was already a pure devotee. And his father didn't know it. So as he's growing up, and his father was a huge demon who became even more powerful by austerities. Austerity is a way to get powerful for anything. You know, strength comes in. So anyway, he was subversive within. His father is trying to raise these nice young demons to take over the kingdom later on, you know. And Prahlad's in the school with them. But when he gets a chance, he starts preaching Krishna consciousness, which is the last thing his father wants to hear. So finally his father said, "You're just like a poison tree in a forest, we can just kill him," you know, his own son. So Prahlad wasn't disturbed. He was so he was so God conscious. He was thinking of Krishna 24 hours a day in great depth. And he simply was there, and they tried all kinds of ways to kill him. They couldn't even hurt him. So finally they gave up, and they said, well, look, he's still just a young kid. We'll be able to cure him in the school. So he was back in the school, and when the teachers went to have their lunch, then he would teach the kids, his classmates, you see? So eventually his father heard about that, and he was just really furious. He comes to the point of he's going to kill him himself, and he had a confrontation with his son, and Nrsimhadev came bursting out of a pillar. This is a form of God, half man, half lion, and played with the Hiranyakashipu for a little bit, and then finally got him on his lap and tore him apart. You know, finished him. And then all of his thousands of soldiers came, and he killed them also. And then you know, he was still furious, and he couldn't be pacified by all the demigods praying to him at a great distance. And so finally they said, Prahlad, he likes you. Maybe you can pacify him, see what happens. So Prahlad fearlessly went forward and bowed down and started offering these prayers that we're reading right now. And as soon as he came forward, Nrsimhadev became peaceful. Komala Nrsimha, you know. So the point is, no, we need to gradually develop our Krishna consciousness. We are conditioned souls, and that conditioning is many, many years and lifetimes in the making. So it doesn't generally happen all at once, but the process is scientific. It always works if you follow the instructions. Like if you always follow the recipe to the core, then you'll get the samosas or whatever you're cooking, or any experiment, right? So it's tried and true. So the answer is that that liberation is, after all, a negative thing. Liberation doesn't tell you what you do with that liberation, right? Liberation means, in this context, mukti means freedom from birth, old age, disease, and death. But there's different qualities of that liberation. Because if that's all you're aspiring for, then it's all a negative thing, and the way you can do that is described here by silence and all this business. And you're really trying to control your senses and by force of will cleanse them of this desire and this obsession with material life. And a very few can acquire temporary liberation by doing that, but only to be merged into the white light of Brahman, which is boring. For a devotee, it's hell. Because there's no Krishna, you don't have a body, you don't have a personality. All you have is your pure consciousness, and I'm finally free from birth, old age, disease, and death. How long can you be happy like that? Not very. Devotee thinks it's like going to hell. So real liberation is simply sublimating the activities of the senses, mind, intelligence, everything that we have, by connecting them to Krishna. That's where the yoga comes in. It's simple. You have some money and you can spend it on sense gratification, but if you spend it, you offer it to the temple and they sponsor the feast. You've been in a couple of feasts. On Sunday, yesterday, unfortunately it wasn't sponsored, but we had a lot of sponsors lately. So someone that have a birthday or whatever, or just they want to do some service, so they give, what is it, $200 or whatever it is. I don't know what the sponsor is, but that's money that they earned, and that becomes devotional service. And there's a pleasure there that comes. You feel good about it. You see the devotees eating and Krishna smiling, and it's reciprocation. So that's really liberation. You didn't spend that money on sense gratification. And the pleasure you got from it will induce you to do it again. And before long, you won't spend any of your money on sense gratification. You see? So that's liberation. It's all active. It's not just a state that we're trying to get. It's simply a consciousness where we're no longer interested in satisfying the senses, just like Yamunacharya. Rather, we're interested in using these senses for the time that we still have them, because we're all headed toward demise, in the service of the Lord. And understanding that if we become completely pure on that, then we can go back home, back to Godhead. Not just to sit around being liberated, but to actively serve Krishna in all kinds of varieties of ways. That's the goal of the bhakta, you see. Okay, we're out of time. I don't want to go, tend to go too long these days. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. We had our extra reading also.